we take you direct to the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid. And these positions, of course, reflect race 2's results. And Tander was the man in excess of 10 seconds. His winning margin over Jason Bright. They've all had time to have a little think about what occurred in that second race. And Neil, some of the guys frankly lost their minds at the beginning of that one. Do you think they've learned?
Quite bizarre, really, when you consider how neat yesterday's race was. It was about 5 or 6 laps in before we had trouble, but we certainly had plenty of it in race number 2. In this race, the majority of the field, though, should have better tyre condition. Most people have now assembled their best 4 tyres to do the short initial segment of the race, and then they've got 4 very good tyres to do the back end of the race. That will certainly help. Came from the IPO's office a few moments ago, and there have been no further actions taken in regard to any of the incidents that happened in race number 2 other than the drive-through penalties that you saw in the last race. However, Jack Perkins will not be on the grid as a result of the damage to the Sirame entry there, so unfortunately Jack will be a spectator for this one.
In comparison to the rest of their respective weekends, some standout performances there. Greg Murphy, Cam McConville, Jason Richards, Stephen Johnson, who came from 31st to 11th, and Max Wilson, all enjoying good runs. Darryl?
The FPR team, Lee, really trying to get Jason Bright right on the edge and find those few tenths. New front rotors and pads in that car before this warm-up lap, and I'll get a look at the tyres that are going to go on these cars once that window opens.
Same as the second, 37 laps to conclude round 12. There's just one race meeting left. Oh, and Tander's jumped the start. Tander went early.
He's going to be in trouble for that because he's penetrated the line, and that will mean a drive-through penalty for Garth Tander. He did actually stop, but I think he was able to roll across that line, and therefore he's going to be in strife. So do we get through turn 1 cleanly this time?
Yes is the answer. There's a little bit of rubbing and contacting there into turn 2, and it's involved Jason Richards. Front right is locked, it's damaged.
There's quite substantial damage in the front right corner of that car, and Jason's going to pull it off to the right-hand side.
Stephen Richards in trouble. Flicks the Jack Daniels Commodore around and gets going. It was a brilliant start from Mark Winterbottom. There he is, in front of his teammate Jason Bright, and we wait to see what will occur with Garth Tander.
Cam McConville on the outside here of turn 6. There was a whole bunch of cars really awkwardly positioned there coming out of turn 4, so obviously whatever happened on the exit of 4 created a real bottleneck because this group have separated dramatically from the rest of the cars.
Fair bit of impatience out there. They're all pushing and shoving, looking for their own piece of road. Damage to the front of the number 10 WPS Ford of Jason Bargwanna. As now they settle somewhat. Courtney's in a drag race side by side with Paul Morris on the run downhill to 9. Smoke coming. Was that from Morris's car? Second, third, fourth. Kelly's got the pressure on Lowndes here.
It's a heap of cars driving down the dirty line there as well. It makes it very hard to pull up at 9 and 10. So Kelly on the inside there, in position over Craig Lowndes. This is the braking area at the end of the first lap.
The Dunlop technicians tell us that the ambient temperature currently 24 degrees on track 27. We had a few sprinkles of rain just before they set off on the sighting lap. Will Davison hoping for a good finish in this one. It started as such a promising weekend for Will Davison, top 5 in the 2-hour practice session. But after that incident in race 2, a whole radiator, they threw away the front splitter. The radiator intake duct and the support panel were damaged, and so was the splitter mount. They have repaired it, and the driver of car 18 hoping for a good result in the final in Bahrain.
Well, he's off to a flyer of a start, Greg. He's 15th already.
1.67 seconds is the margin for Tander at the end of that lap, with Winterbottom, then Bright, Lowndes, Kelly, Whincup. Lots of blokes just scrambling here on this scruffier set of tyres. Remember that the compulsory pit stop will put the majority of the field back on a better tyre set.
Ingle on the inside of Morris. No big argument there. So it's Tander, Winterbottom, Bright, top 3, then Lowndes, and then Kelly, I should say, then Lowndes, Whincup, Murphy. Johnson is up to 8, Scaife and McConville. Zinger replay, watch Tander.
See that white line in front of the car? Yeah, the front wheels have gone over it, so I think that GT's going to be in trouble. He did stop, he did a good job to attempt to bring the car back under control, but if they've deemed that he's crossed that white line in the starting box, then he's in trouble. 25.4 for Garth Tander on that flying lap. He's opened the margin out to 2.6 seconds.
We always, as we enjoy this replay with Stephen Richards, is he about to get tagged and turned around? I think it happens up at turn 4. Tucked in behind Whincup. Listen.
It's real messing here. Well, hit very hard from behind. And actually managed to grab it and no, it went around a second time. I thought he was going to grab it and drive away. They were giddy after all that.
2 cars you see immediately. There's Stephen Johnson. He's way out of it on the outside. There's a WPS car in there. Oh, it's Wilson who gets into Johnson first.
That was on the exit of turn 1. That was the reason why Jason had all that damage on the number 3 car.
Look at Scaife skip through the group, and no wonder he's gone from 19th to 9th on the opening lap. So Scaife was able to thread the needle very effectively.
Yeah, he just went through to the left there, and the rest of this all unfolded, and of course it scattered the pack, and then there was more trouble up at turn 4, and that further separated the back half of the field. Here's Jason Bright making a move on his teammate Mark Winterbottom. I think this is down into turn 9 into the final corner, and it's a good move for Jason Bright. Pulled it off cleanly, and Todd's having a look here as well. He looks strong, and in fact he's just done the job on Mark Winterbottom, and Lowndes wants to go with him. That's turn 1.
Neil, the word from the officials here in pit lane is you can expect an announcement of some kind. Here it comes now from Tim Schenken. Pit lane penalty for car 16, false start. Tander, as you predicted, drive-through penalty. It's about to happen.
So that takes him out of the lead.
Race director's just on the radio as we speak, issuing the instruction. The front wheels unfortunately went across the white line, and so curtains for Garth Tander. Frustration for him with a 4-second lead after 3 laps, and there's Matt Nilsson, his engineer, and Rob Crawford in the background. John Kelly, the team owner, right towards the background, and that's one that they couldn't afford.
Neil Campbell Little just said before the start of this race, for Craig in race 2, they made that car a little too pointy, and he was losing some time around 4 and 5. They've gone back to what they had for race 1 and feel like he'll have the pace that Jamie had in race 2 as well. So Lowndes now looking strong and trying to get those championship points back on Rick Kelly.
And that was Campbell on the radio. Here comes Garth Tander, and he's heading towards pit lane to serve that drive-through. Verbally pop back out.
And it takes 43 seconds to transit the lane. There's no stop, of course, it's just a drive-through penalty, and then he's got to get back up to racing speed. So he'll drop back in a long way down the field as Jason Bargwanna runs very wide. Mark Winterbottom peeling off there as well.
He has got dramas because it's too early for the compulsory pit window to be open. Leanne Tander, the wife of Garth, and disappointed faces, as you can understand, at Toll HSV.
A lot of damage there on the front of Jason Bargwanna's car. So he's talking about gearbox in the background.
I think you're watering your mic, I can't hear you.
This is for the lead. Todd Kelly on the inside of Jason Bright. Turn 6, they climb the hill, and the HRT man is there. Bright has the preferred line for the next corner and hangs tough.
Yeah. Todd finds himself in an awkward spot here, and he can't really hold on the outside. The dirty line offers very little in the way of grip. He'll try and do a crisscross on the exit, though. Because Jason's taken the shallower approach line, it makes it harder to get a good corner exit speed. So Kelly now has a big run at the cat car down into the final corner. He should be in position, and Jason will try and do the same to him on the exit.
New race leader for the Holden Racing team, Todd Kelly. Now watch these guys side by side. Great exit from Jason Bright.
So he did exactly the same thing. So 2 drivers pulling the same stunt on 2 corners, and now Bright's in the box seat when they get down to 1.
And in the background, perfect view of all of this for Craig Lowndes, who continues to maximise on grabbing points. You're right with Lowndes now.
He's right in this, isn't he? Because the 2 lead guys slowed each other up dramatically. Then 27-1 for Jason, 26-7 for Todd.
Just updating you on the movements of some other drivers in this field. Scaife continues his amazing run, 19th to 5th. And Rick Kelly, after failing in that second race, damage on the car and had numerous dramas, as we detailed for you, is running very strongly. He's up to 14th from the back of this field.
Mixture of emotions, boys, in the Ford Performance Racing Garage. As you know, David Richards, the Pro Drive chairman, is in there. There's a whole range of special guests. And just watching Jason Bright battle away there a moment ago, they cheered for his efforts. At the same time, a lot of attention focused on Mark Winterbottom. And it's a gear shifter problem, we believe, boys.
And his teammates just throwing the lead away. Bright ran wide, exiting turn 8. And Lowndes is ready to pounce now on the fellow Ford driver. Kelly resumes the lead.
Still those few telltale spots of water on the screen. It's quite a lot colder outside now than it was earlier in the day. Very dark off in the distance, although I don't think we're going to see any real rain as such. One of the 888 cars peeled off then. I think that was Jamie. Yes. So Todd Kelly is the leader, 0.7 of a second the margin. Jason Bright, Craig Lowndes, Mark Scaife, Greg Murphy, who was on the radio reporting that the balance of the car is excellent at the moment. First time I've heard Greg say that for a while. Then Stephen Johnson, Jamie Whitcup, Cam McConville, Will Davison, James Courtney. Not a bad recovery for him so far.
And for Davison to be in the top 10 after DNFing race 2. Here's Whitcup. Watch the Team Better Electrical at work. First of the front runners in.
Okay, mate, away you go. 10 latest clear. Watch your speed.
And if you weren't with us yesterday, we did highlight the point that that is not the Bathurst winning car any longer. That's back in Australia. That's where Ludo Lacroix, Jamie's race engineer, is working on that car, getting that one up to scratch. And Jamie's back in his original car that he started the year with and won the Clipsal 500 with. Both Stone Brothers cars have been serviced, both Courtney and Russell Ingall. Here comes Warren Luff in the Fujitsu Ford. That looks like Paul Morris right in behind him, is it? Yes, it is. So Morris serviced as well. But Todd Kelly leads this race and leads it well. And he's increased his margin over the car forward of Jason Bright, who's coming under increasing pressure from Lowndes.
Okay.
Lap speed that time for Jason Bright was a 26.3, 26.5 for Craig Lowndes versus a 6 neat for Todd Kelly in a 1 second margin.
This beautiful circuit designed by German Hermann Tilke, who was also the architect at Shanghai. And remember when we were there last year? This car won.
Murphy's in on this lap for the compulsory pit stop. Bright using all of the exit space on turn 4. He's got to be very careful there. He'll get the bad sportsmanship flag, Greg.
They're also on standby for James Courtney Neal, who's in the lane as well. Murphy in for the stop now. Rear tyres the attention on the 51 car. As you've said before, he seems quite happy with the balance on it at the moment. I've also been to the Toll HSV dealer team. Oh, Murphy has to yield here to allow for Courtney. No contact. But Rob Crawford, the team manager here, tells me that they're going to let Rick Kelly and Garth Tander, as it currently stands, just run a little bit longer. Run the gauntlet a bit.
Yeah, the longer they run Rick, the more likely they are to dial themselves into a slightly better position. They've got good car speed. They need to get as much fresh air as they can to try and maximise that. Now, Winterbottom's been in and out. We still haven't really got to the bottom of that problem. We heard a little bit of chat in the background on the radio about gearbox. So we'll get the boys on the job, but that's greatly frustrating for him as now Jason Bright peels off. He was debating with Phil Keed how he'd manage the tyre set and whether he wanted to lengthen this segment of the race. I wouldn't mind betting... Wouldn't mind betting that they change and re-pressure the rear tyre pressures for this segment of the race on his car. Very different conditions to what we've seen in the last couple of days.
Here's your race leader, Todd Kelly. Stephen Johnson put in a stunning performance in race 2 from 31st to 11th. What about Scaife? He's 19th to 4th.
The tyres normally have 4 mil on these cars when they start. Bright with a good set of tyres on that car. 3.8 was the biggest depth that I could see on Bright's rear tyres. A better right rear went on for Jason Bright. No re-pressure there, Neil, before they went on.
Bright back on track.
And Tander's in as well.
Go.
Very slippery concrete surface. Damage there in the front right corner of Jason Bargwanna's car. He was tangled up in that turn 4 incident with Stephen Richards. Don't know who did what to who. 2 seconds is the margin between Todd Kelly and Craig Lowndes at the moment. and Todd Kelly in this lap.
So the pressure now on the Holden Racing team. Todd did have a healthy margin over Lowndes, who was yet to stop for his compulsory pit stop.
John Bow here, Paul Morris, Brad Jones, Warren Luffin, the Fujitsu number 25 entry, and Brad down the inside of Morris. Remember yesterday those two came together in exactly the same spot. Here's Todd.
Rear tyres, obviously, for the 22 car. It was a good stop next door at the Toll HSV dealer team. Great effort. Todd Kelly, he exits pit lane. It was interesting to note when Garth's car dropped off the jacks, Neil, I noticed you made comment about it, just struggling to pick up and get going on the concrete. It seems as though their cars perhaps even idle a little bit lower this round. I noticed it during the exit lap for the top 10 shootout here. They just sort of struggled to get going, but no stall for Tander. All good.
Tell you what, from the angle that we had there, it looked awfully like Todd touched that white line at the pit lane exit. And we clarified it with the race director in the team manager's briefing earlier in the week, and if you touched that line, you were likely to be in trouble. So we'll wait and watch on that one.
Got out ahead of Jason Bright, as you would expect. He did have a reasonable margin over him. And we'll watch now for when Lowndes completes his stop, where he comes out into the mix, and also Scaife. Lowndes is in. All right, this will be interesting. How quick can Team Bella Electrical service him and get out?
They're going to service Scaife this lap as well.
Straightforward stop. Lane isn't busy. It's all there for Lowndes to capitalise on. Has it been a good in-lap? This is a very long and wide pit lane. This must be agonising from the driver's seat. 40 kilometres an hour must feel like you're walking. Here we go. Good, smooth, fast, efficient stop. Now watch to your right here. Look at the main straight. How does Lowndes fare up against Kelly and Bright? Not so well. He'll pop out where he was, behind in third place. So he'll come out ahead of his teammate Jamie Whincup. Status quo. At any moment we should see Scaife, who is the race leader at the moment, but yet to stop. He's on his way in. And where does he come out? Because he's had a dynamic opening stanza in this race. We'll return. We're approaching third race distance. Stick around. So a brilliant run through the traffic for Mark Scaife, and just the cork coming out of the frustration bottle, that's for sure. He's been able to release a bit in this race. Finally, things are going his way. And Robbie Starr, team manager, saying pit lane is clear, you're going to be all good to go as soon as your two fresh rears are on. Now let's... Oh, he stalled it. He stalled it. And any advantage that he may have got out on track has all been lost.
Would have added another 4 or 5 seconds to his time in there. And Robbie's just encouraging him to have a breathe. We've got pace, just relax. But Mark knows that's pretty damaging.
And Johnson, who's on a roll at the moment, is right on Scaife's tail. And Stephen has been out there for a lap or two. So he's already back into the rhythm and now is applying the pressure to Scaife. Going to try and crisscross him here at turn 4.
And the only problem with that is that you end up in the awkward side of the road when you get down to turn 6. Now, Stephen's snuck across to the other side of the road, but I think Mark might just hang on here.
Takes to the defensive line, middle of the track to the left, and makes life difficult for Stephen Johnson. These are the two who have been carving their way through this field.
Greg Murphy's been having a pretty good run, but he's now talking on the radio about something odd going on with the sound and feel of the engine in the car. So we'll monitor that in the 51 car. Officially, the race leader at the moment is Rick Kelly from Steve Owen. Neither of those drivers have chosen to stop. There's Murph.
Yeah, copy that, mate.
Steve Henderson's voice on the radio. So just a few moments ago, Greg was describing a different sound and feel in the car. factory stop and a service. Todd Kelly leads Jason Bright, Craig Lowndes, Jamie Whincup, Mark Scape, Stephen Johnson, and this man, Greg Murphy. However, Todd's back in 6th. Rick leads the motor race, 9.9 seconds. They'll run him long. When does that window close? Lap number 26, so they've got a long time to run. The only danger there is if for whatever reason the safety car happens to come out and compress the field and he hasn't taken his stop. You can see the skyline here at the moment, still looks pretty threatening. Can't pick the difference from where we're sitting at the moment, but clearly Greg will have a good intuitive feel and understanding for just the performance and the feel in this motor car, and it's not right at the moment, he says. This is turn 8.
1.5 on the rear bar. Got quite a lot of push. Doesn't think it helped too much.
If you're a Holden Racing Team fan, a Mark Scape fan, you're not going to like what you're about to see. Listen. Scape stalls it, winning a strong position and coming in hard on the top runners. All the advantage that he had out on the track. Went away. It all evaporated in that pit stop. So Mark Scape has to continue the hard work. He and Stephen Johnson have been the pair that have been carving their way through this field, but Scape lost some advantage there. Meanwhile, his teammate continues to lead the way. Though he's not the race leader on the timing screen, Rick Kelly is. Rick and about 4 or 5 other drivers are yet to stop for their compulsories as we go on board with Greg Murphy.
And a report from Greg that he's got some sort of an engine drama. The engine doesn't quite sound or feel the same, he was saying. I'm also hearing reports of oil on the racetrack. And I just caught a glimpse before of Jamie Whincup's car, which looked as though it may have had a little smoke exiting the rear of the vehicle. Too early to point the finger. Oh, no, there's more than a little now. Zinger replay shows that it's hemorrhaging badly. So it's going to be game over here for Jamie. This is the reason for all the rubbish on the track for sure. And he pulls wide.
The boys here at 888 aren't too keen to tell me exactly what it is, Neil, but you can pretty much see the net result for yourself. But what I can see from the data is a massive drop in oil pressure.
Mate, it could be oil at the last corner.
And smart bit of thinking there on Jamie's part. Take the car well out of harm's way, out through the exit slot in the fence and park it. And his day's done. So what looked like a little trickle of oil smoke obviously turned into a major drama for him. And everybody being a little bit cautious there. You see Todd just getting off the race line there because they're all being warned about oil on the race line into turn 1. They'll all want to have a look at it, sense what they've got underneath them before they commit to a big threshold breakdown there.
Second time that's happened to Jamie Whincup this year. If you remember, it occurred at Oran Park as well when he was in a strong position. I think from memory he may have been even leading that race. Meanwhile, Kelly's the man out in front from Jason Bright and then Craig Lowndes. Real points haul here for Lowndes in Bahrain and enables him to take the fight right back to Rick Kelly. Zinger replay. Look, are they left of the white line?
It was interesting, there was a lot of talk early in the weekend at the team managers briefing that was deemed to have been a no-no, and then they later kind of revised that to if someone deliberately does it lap after lap after lap and clearly gains an advantage, that will ping them. But there hasn't been a lot of noise about it through the race meeting itself, through the actual races. And in fact, because he's looking at our pictures, Phil Key just said to Jason Bright, hey mate, don't cross the white line anymore on the exit of turn 4.
Yep.
So Jason acknowledges with a copy that. He knows the deal.
In addition to the warnings, boys, about potential oil on the circuit, some other engineers have been chatting to their drivers. Eric Pender, the man who looks after Rick Kelly's car, has told him to concentrate and just work on finessing the middle sector of this circuit and try and improve the times there. And Steve Henderson, who works closely with Greg Murphy, just spoke with him a few moments ago. He said there's no evidence of the car hurting anyway from what Greg was saying on the radio there before, Neil, about a change in the sound of the car, the induction of the car between races 2 and 3. The numbers at this stage for Murphy look okay.
Now, Rick Kelly's got a 20-second lead over Andrew Jones at the moment, and we know that it takes about 43 seconds to transit the lane, plus the stop. Now, the stationary time will be about 3 to 4 seconds. So, in round terms, call it 50 seconds. The question is, where does Rick Kelly insert back in the field? I should think he's still going to be battling to make much of an impression, but I'm guessing here, quick addition on some numbers, back end of the teens perhaps, but still vital points.
Smooth and consistent. Have a drink.
Eric Pender, you heard the message.
Boys need to do a little more research on this one, but I'm hearing at the moment that Paul Dumbrell wanted to stop in the Jack Daniels Commodore, some sort of issue he believes with exhaust fumes coming in the car, but at this stage the team have urged him to stay out. I'll do a little more research on this one.
Rick Kelly and Andrew Jones yet to complete their compulsory stop. There's Paul Dumbrell, the Jack Daniels Commodore. Oh, there's a lot of debris on the track there.
Something flying on the left-hand side of that car as well, is there? The reason that he might be feeling a bit uncomfortable is that there might be something, a little bit of debris, a bit of rubber, maybe a bit of brake duct or something like that, just having a rub on that car, which is polluting the cabin.
It's difficult to see what it is, and
it's black on black, that's the reason. Okay, it's on here between McConville and James Courtney. These two disputing 10th and 11th at the moment. A lot of damage around the front of Cam's car. Got an extra front wing on it the way the bonnet's shaped. Not sure that it's helping. 20.5 seconds the margin, Rick Kelly to Andrew Jones. So Rick continues to skip away from the field. He's got good pace.
Neil, something you observed at the beginning of our coverage yesterday was the sealed runoff sections that are around the Bahrain circuit, and that has contributed, many people here in pit lane believe, to less safety cars at this particular race meeting. So Rob Crawford at the moment says they're going to try and let Rick Kelly run as long as possible because there seems to be, so far, much less chance of a safety car.
I can't work out what it is that he's picked up there at the moment, but whatever it is, there was a whole bunch of it on the exit of that turn. I think he snagged a bit of it. Weird. And that'll be the reason I should suggest for the fumes.
So we've settled into a rhythm now inside the last 20 laps. There's still a lot of racing to come. Stick around. You're watching the Desert 400 on your home of motorsport, Network 10. Fairly level, isn't it? The gap fairly even. The gap 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Todd Kelly to Bright, Bright to Craig Lowndes. As we ride with Lowndes, let's have a listen. Let's see if he can reel Jason Bright in.
Eric Pender's just counselling Rick Kelly at the moment. Don't rush at turn 4. You're just asking the car to do too much there. Just work on slowing the car down a little more. Get the nose of the car online and just finesse it. Curious to just match up his pace relative to the corrected race leaders at the moment. We'll see what he does at the completion of this lap. On board here with Craig Lowndes, corrected 3rd place. So 1:27.1 for Rick Kelly. His brother, 26.5. 26.7 for Jason Bright, 26.5 for Craig Lowndes. So on that particular lap, Rick didn't have really good speed at all as Andrew peels off. He was second. Rick Kemp is engineering this car this weekend. And he stalled. A bit of an epidemic of it here this weekend. They are using a different fuel this weekend, so I wonder whether there's just a little bit of engine management trimming, just a couple of issues there in the cleanliness of the way in which the engines are running down low. Maybe when they first grab the throttle percentage to drive away, there's just a little hesitation in the engine or a sneeze.
Steve Owen on Max Wilson. And that was fairly straightforward. And Andrew Jones has ducked into pit lane for his compulsory stop. So Rick Kelly, the last one to stop.
Maxi used first gear through turn 4 then. And if anything, it was hurting him coming off the corner relative to Steve Owen. And car number 33, Lee Holdsworth, has been given the bad sportsmanship flag for having all 4 wheels and tyres across to the left of the white line on the exit of turn 4.
Take a look at a zinger replay from something earlier involving Paul Dumbrell. This might help paint the picture a little better about that debris on the track. See, now that's come out of his car.
It's smouldering, whatever it is. Could be a bit of heat shield or something like that. I'm puzzled.
It's annoying you.
It's annoying me.
James Courtney, Cam McConville and Greg Murphy. This fight continues and Courtney's got the better of both the Super Cheap Auto boys. Some smiles down in PWR land with both their men in the top 10. For Greg Murphy, race 2, his result, that's the first time he's been in the top 10 since the last race at Oran Park. So that'll bring some relief for him.
Muffler wool.
You're an old dirt biker, like an old motocross. You know, you used to pack the silencers with at the end. Muffler wool, you know, exactly. Pack it tight, lower the DB.
Keep digging.
Hey?
I'm not sure. It looked to be too much of it, but I'll tell you in half an hour.
All right, muffler wool.
26.8 seconds, Rick Kelly to Todd Kelly.
Oh, Wild Davison into the pits. He's got a problem. He's going too slow.
Got a lot of brake dust on those front wheels, the ATEC wheels. That thing sounds like it's running poorly as it coasts back into the lane.
Somebody is going to need to counsel this young man because he is in the top 10 after starting last on the grid and now has been hit with more bad luck. How much can you take in 2 or 3 race meetings? Just things are not going his way at all.
He's driven quite well, hasn't he?
Very well.
He's continued to grow in stature in the category in the second half of the season, and it must be frustrating to continue to have these niggling problems.
It has happened again. More bad luck for Will Davison. He's come from last on the grid to be in the top 10. And now the car has stopped short of the DJR pit box. I feel for this young man.
He's been very unlucky in the last couple of rounds. It's a great performance in Tasmania and here. He just keeps on getting involved in stuff, often not of his own doing. And this looks like some sort of a technical issue. The car was just coasting into the lane there. He got punted earlier in the day and the weekend. The early practice looked really encouraging for him.
And his speed in this race, well, his speed in all of them.
They want the taps. He wants him to reconfigure the taps, because of the way the taps are at the moment on the air jacks. It's only jacking the rear of the car. By changing the position on the taps, now we've got all 4 punched out at the bottom. They've got to put the incompressible jacks in there to get under the car, and Greg is on the spot.
It is a gearbox issue for Will Davison, and they've had trouble hearing him on the radio, so they're not sure. It seemed to me as he was coming down the lane that it may have even been stuck in gear. So the boys, the attention is focused at the moment on the underside of the car, not inside the actual cockpit itself. We'll try maybe even just sneak a quick word with Will here.
Yeah.
What happened, Will?
Just got a drama with the gearbox, Rusty. Everything was going really fantastic, and started making a really bad noise, and then it all gave up. Absolutely no gears at all. So just ends off a pretty good weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that says it all, boys.
Use your fatherly nature, Greg. Just, counselling, console him.
Get back to work.
Look at that, they've told him to get out of the car.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. Here's a move, James Courtney down the inside of Greg Murphy. Zinger replay here, and this is disputing 7th and 8th. And James side to side with Greg, but gets it done. How does it go when they negotiate 2? And the Geldwin car pulling clear.
No worries. Here's a replay involving Paul Dumbrell. Now, the track appeared to be clear, so that may have come from his car.
Remember, he was on the radio talking about fumes in the cabin. They asked him to continue if he could, but there's that big telltale sign of debris on the exit of turn 8. Maybe it's a bit of chewed up brake duct or some heat shield from some area of the car, or maybe some muffler wool. I don't really know. We think it's from his car. That's one for us to look at as Lee Holdsworth gets all out of shape down at turn 1. And I think there's been a couple of people involved in that. A lot of smoke down there at the moment. Rick Kelly, meantime, 25.5 second margin, first to second over his brother.
And speaking of Rick Kelly, there's an opinion that if he pits within the next 3 laps, he should rejoin around about 7th, 8th, 9th. So that's been a very productive run for him.
Well, Lee, David Richards, normally the team, David, didn't want you to turn up this weekend because you brought bad luck, but so far it's been a great weekend for Jason Bright.
Yes, no, he's driven a great race, and well, I never count my chickens, but he's still in a good position in this last one as well.
Must be nice to travel to Bahrain, David, instead all that way down to Australia. It's close to Europe.
It's not quite so far for me as it is for you guys to come here, so it's sort of 8 hours back home this evening, and yeah.
I know it's too early, David, but if Jason manages to take this round this weekend, that ties up the Manufacturer Championship for Ford this year. That would be a nice way for you to finish this weekend.
It's great. You know, Ford have come on so much this year, and what we, Triple Eight winning Bathurst. If we win the championship as well, then be another fillet. And of course, the drivers is going to go down to the last round by the looks of it.
Thanks for your time, David.
Cheers.
Also, Neil, you've been chasing that problem with Paul Dumbrell, and that is muffler wall. From what the team believe, they say he copped a whack in the side of the exhaust. It's knocked the exhaust off, and those fumes are going straight up through the cabin in Paul Dumbrell's car.
Okay, so that's what it is then. How's that incident down at turn 1? Both the Repco Valvoline Cummins entries of Gary Rogers and the WPS car mixed up in it as well.
And there's the last remaining bit of that muffler wall.
Yeah, that's what it is then. Cars have all got to comply with a 95 decibel noise limit wherever they travel around the world. To do that, they have to run a fair bit of muffler wool in the exhaust system to keep the noise down. And now Rick is in.
Track temperature has dropped 1 degree. Good stop by Rick Kelly. I had a look at those tyres before they went on and had a word to the team boss, Rob Crawford. They're in pretty good shape, those tyres, too.
Well, let's watch where he rejoins.
Lee, the depth.
All clear on exit, mate.
The depth I was going to tell you about, Lee, 3.7 on one tyre, Neil, and 3.6 on the other, in pretty good shape. And Rick Kelly, he'll only have to spend minimal time on these tyres now.
Wow, he's come out ahead of James Courtney. That has been a very productive sector of this race for Rick Kelly.
Yeah, much better than I thought. Early on, we were talking about teams.
That was slick stuff. Courtney's running in 7th, and Rick's come out ahead of him.
It's a good car with good lap speed, just left him out there in clear air, not mixed up with anybody else. And Lee Holdsworth continues to be shown the black flag for crossing the white line on the exit of turn 4 repeatedly, so he hasn't served that penalty yet. The race director just asking to make sure it's continuing to be shown.
So with everybody completing their compulsory pit stops, this is the rundown. Race leader right there, Todd Kelly for the Holden Racing team. Then Jason Bright running in second. And the margin 1 to 2 is just under 2 seconds. From Holden to Ford, then it's Lowndes. And then Mark Scaife. There you can see him at the top of your screen coming onto the front straight ahead of Stephen Johnson. So a top 5 at the moment for Stephen Johnson after starting right at the back of the pack in race 2. Super performance. Then Rick Kelly, then James Courtney, then Greg Murphy, Cameron McConville, and Garth Tander has managed to work his way back up into the top 10 after that drive-through penalty. Winterbottom, you can see in the mix there, of course, is not in the mix after spending an extended period of time in his pit box. So frustration there for the man who sits third in the championship. Ingle has rebounded, hasn't he? He must have got a good run through all of that carnage at the opening stanza of this race. Then Stephen Richards, and Steve Owen is having a pretty decent run too, sitting in 13th at the moment in the Autobahn Commodore. As we enter the final period, the final 10 laps of this race. And was Garth just flicking his headlights there just to warn Winterbottom, hey, I'm coming on through, I'm on business here. You're just circulating the laps, trying to pick up points. He said, I'm charging hard in the top 10. And has Bright got anything left for Todd Kelly up front as we climb on board the number 2 HRT machine with Scaife? Where could he have been if it weren't for that stall? And let's not forget he started 19th, so it's been a very productive run anyway.
So 273 points so far in the round for Craig Lowndes, and for Rick Kelly 204. And early in the race you would not have thought that could be possible. So it's a big dig out here for Rick Kelly and the Toll HSV dealer team, and just manages the points margins going into the final round at Phillip Island in a couple of weeks.
Well, for V8 Supercars Australia, they're rubbing their hands together. For the championship to go down to the last race of the season is what any governing body or promoter certainly wants to see. And of course, the fans will be treated to a ripper. The grand finale in a fortnight at Phillip Island to determine who the champion will be. Will it be a Ford driver? Will it be a Holden driver? Couldn't be any better, really. It's set up perfectly. Lowndes v Kelly. Here's the first rock home lanes Ford of Stephen Johnson.
Rick made half a second that lap on Stevie Johnson. So Todd Kelly, Bright, Lowndes, Scaife, Johnson, Rick Kelly, Courtney, Murphy, McConville, Tander. So even for Garth Tander to recover from a drive-through after the jump start, it's not a bad performance. He fell so far back through the field. There it is. That's the margin from Kelly to Johnson. That's a big one, though. However, there's still plenty of laps to run.
Saw John Kelly, father of Rick and Todd, just before the start of this race. I said, how's the young fella? He said, he's fine. And Rick has demonstrated that in this third and final race. He's just kept his calm, kept his cool, and that's been pretty much the case for the majority of this championship.
You know what, this is a good little battle here, but the gap first to second, Kelly to Bright's just seesawing a bit at the moment. And look at this, boys having a wave to each other, the two Super Cheap Auto men. And Greg's just waving Cam by on the inside at one, or is he?
They won't hit each other.
Throttle there and just slotted in behind. It was a high 26 for Jason Bright and a low 27 for Todd Kelly that lap, and the margin now 1.5 seconds between the two of them.
Boys, you'll recall our last big international adventure to China. This man here, Jamie Whincup, just missed out on the podium, and the weekend was looking pretty reasonable for you. What's happened to the car?
Yeah, the whole week's been great. It's been a fantastic spectacle over here, and we've been doing our best. We've been improving the car every session, and we're looking for a top 4 at least position. Unfortunately, we blew an engine. But to be competitive in this championship, you need to be consistent. And unfortunately, our performance has been a little inconsistent this weekend.
Tough result, Jamie.
Yeah, move on. Thanks.
You may have noticed on the right of your screen there, Garth Tander dive-bombing Greg Murphy, almost overcooked it into turn 6, but has gained yet another position. So Tander is up to 9th, and on a charge. McConville is the next one on his list. We'll see how far he can go. And what about his teammate Rick Kelly? Coming up from behind, his brother leads the way. Todd out in front.
Looking rearward from Greg Murphy's car. And Mark Winterbottom, who's a couple of laps down after the troubles that he had. Tander's up to 9th position now. He's just 1 second adrift from Cam McConville. So his recovery continues. So the order, to reiterate, Todd Kelly, Bright, Lowndes, Scaife, Johnson, Rick Kelly, Courtney, McConville, Tander and Murphy, the top 10. Just outside, it's Ingle, Stephen Richards, Owen, Dumbrell, Morris, Canto, Bow, Marshall, Brad Jones, Andrew Jones. That's the top 20. And the man that we're looking at here, Mark Winterbottom, is 4 laps behind the leaders. 27th, Mark Winterbottom. Shame for him. Going to get a big bunch of points, but he should have got more this weekend. He's got pace. Had some dramas. Now, Tander continues to grab extra points here and there where he can. On the inside this time of McConville and gets it done. So he moves in. Oh, and Winterbottom has gone well wide down there on the exit of 1-2. I think there might have been a bit of contact there. Seconds is the margin. Todd Kelly, Jason Bright, and this time it's Kelly in the high 26s and Bright in the low 27s, so their little gap just continues to seesaw. 1.55 seconds. Big pressure motor race between those two. That margin's tight enough so that they've both got a very, very clear picture of each other's performance. Todd will be just glimpsing the mirror occasionally and he'll be looking for a pattern. He'll know where Jason is all the time, and when he sees that the proximity stays about the same, that'll relax him. Jason will be trying to keep his marks the same as Todd as well. 27.2 that lap for Rick Kelly. The slower of the top 10 drivers continues to be Greg Murphy. He's in the high 28s. That is the walking wounded.
Back in Bahrain, you join us for the final 5 laps. Race leader Todd Kelly. It's 1.7 seconds over Jason Bright, who is in the box seat to win this round, which would be his 2nd of the year. Of course, he and Mark Winterbottom won the Better Electrical Sandown 500 earlier this year in September. But Bright has been really in form this weekend. Tander will be kicking himself about that jump start. And let's take you to a zinger replay of an earlier incident.
And those two cars, Greg Murphy and Mark Winterbottom, just tripping on each other. 2 wheels interlocking and grabbing it, just flicked the FPR car up in the air. You can just see Mark there on the right. Left rear meets right front. And jolted the number 5 FPR car off the road on the exit of turn 2.
It's an interesting rundown of results at the moment. You can see Lowndes trailing in the background there in third. Then Scaife is 4, Johnson 5, Rick Kelly is 6th. It's been a remarkable run from the back of the field. Courtney has responded well after his troubles in race 2 to be 7th. Tander 8th, McConville 9th and Murphy 10th. Ingle has done well in this final race as well to be in 11th. And then Stephen Richards, Owen, Dumbrell, Morris, Canto and Marcus Marshall up there in 17th position ahead of the 2 Team BOC Fords.
Bad sportsmanship flag for car number 2, Mark Scaife. I think it was a scratchy radio message, but I think it's for the exit of turn 4. Yes, it is, for being all 4 wheels over the white line.
Neil, as you know, this has been a massive logistics exercise for the teams and for V8 Supercars Australia. And got to say a huge thanks to the team from Gibson Freight. Billy Gibson and his crew have done a wonderful job. These specially designed containers, as you can see, the teams have already started to fill them for the return journey to Australia. Special weight limitations for each car and for each team in this paddock. And by the time they arrive back in Australia, a very short, very quick turnaround for the final and deciding round at Phillip Island.
And they're splitting the freight as we look at this renewed battle between Winterbottom and Murphy. A little bit of dive bomb action there, and this time it's Murph that gets it up on 2 wheels and trips over. And they're separating the freight, so there's a Brisbane flight and there's an Avalon flight to Victoria, and that'll leave here on Monday night our time. Obviously a very tight turnaround, as Greg said, and now we've got a bit of smoke here billowing from Mark Winterbottom's car as a result of the contact with Greg Murphy. So there's a little bit of aggravation creeping into their game at this late point.
Yeah, you can see a bit of cop that, no, you cop this between those 2 guys. And just to finish that point that Greg had on that first flight over from Australia, 109 tonnes, second flight 95 tonnes worth. Bang, Winterbottom into Murphy, then Murphy into Winterbottom.
Ouch. Here it is again, looking from Greg's car. So Mark down the inside, and then just as they got to the turning point, oof.
That was a big old slap.
This one driver was just being cautioned on the radio, so be careful with Murph. He could have some damage and he's probably angry.
Final few laps here in Bahrain on what's been a memorable weekend for a variety of reasons. Will Winterbottom be able to limp home? He's certainly not in a high points yielding position. He's well down the order in 27th. Russell Ingle, however, is in the top 10, and the battle resumes here between Stephen Johnson and Rick Kelly. Kelly is fighting for a championship. Every position counts. Every point counts. Coming into this 3rd and final race, he only had a 14-point margin over Craig Lowndes, who will gain more points on him in the race to be champion.
Stephen's racing for position here, so he certainly won't be doing him any favours. The 2 of them crisscrossing on the braking approach to turn 6. And look at Steve, defensive dives, turns in early. Rick's going to try and crisscross and come out underneath him on the exit.
Very important to this man here on screen, Australian motor racing legend Dick Johnson, to have both his cars in the top 10 at the end of the year. While Stephen is fighting for a top 10 championship position, it's unlikely that Will Davison will get that after his troubles, and he's back in 17th. Rick pulls off the move very cleanly, quite easily, with the last 2 laps coming, and it's a pretty bleak sky out there at the moment. It's getting quite dark here in Bahrain. Just before 4 in the afternoon local time, and there's the picture. Something you can't really get a grip of here is the true undulation of this circuit. From the lowest point to the highest point, there's 18 metres in difference, and this is one of the climbing points.
Did you measure that?
No, I've got it in front of me here, and the nice little track info pack.
1 second between Todd Kelly and Jason Bright. It just tightened up a little bit, and Todd's aware of it. He was just on the radio a moment ago. You can see here the win loss down the right-hand side. So we're really getting now to a pressure scenario for Todd. We've got Jason just creeping into here. He's just getting larger in the mirror. That's always an uncomfortable feeling. Last lap. Matt Crawford says stay focused, Todd, and Phil Keeds talking brake balance to Jason Bright. Their last hit at it, just 3.8 odd seconds. More trouble at turn 1. Jason Bargwana, Max Wilson, Chris Pither, Look at this, very close now in the braking approach and then through the exit of one. Todd Kelly on target here for a win, but Jason Bright trying to do everything he can to snatch it away from him.
Ford has won 7 of the 11 rounds so far in 2006, and Bright is on his way to make that 8. It'll be his 2nd round win of the year.
Jason just ran a bit wide down there at 6. In fact, that cost him a fair bit of margin, so I think that's pretty much game over from that point. There is a bit of traffic in front of them, but no, Bright hasn't given up the ghost yet. He makes a bit of ground coming back down the hill.
And this completes what has been a real turnaround in form for Todd Kelly in these late rounds in the 2006 season. It'll be a nice way to cap off this international trip. He won in Shanghai. He will win here in Bahrain. So the Holden Racing team will have something to celebrate. Todd Kelly takes out race 3 here in Bahrain, but the round goes to Bright. The Cat Ford man wins overall in Bahrain. The first time ever for the V8s in the Middle East. And Bright has done it. Ford Performance Racing with the chairman of ProDrive, Dave Richards, here to witness it. And Rod Barrett.
I'm with him right now. The boys ran to the wall from Ford Performance Racing to watch the victory. You, David Richards, almost sat stone-faced watching the monitor until he was physically there.
Yeah, you want to be sure of these things. He had one last go towards Todd on that last lap, but obviously not enough left in the tyres in the car.
Wonderful result for the team. I know it's been a tough day for Mark Winterbottom, but realistically, though, things, this year have come right for this team, haven't they?
No, the team's a great team. Just look at them on the wall there. They deserve everything they've got now. They've come together. They work brilliantly together, and roll on next year.
Go and enjoy.
Thank you.
Roll on next year, because they'll continue to be strong, but I tell you, they'll miss Jason Bright next year, and I'm sure he'll miss them, but he's off to work on his own program at Brightech. And he is 2 times a round winner now in this year, in this championship. And I tell you what, this man has done a good job this weekend. The championship, there is nothing in it.
Unbelievable. There was a big bunch of points coming into the round. There's just 7 points now between Rick Kelly and Craig Lowndes. Doesn't that set up a great Caterpillar Grand Finale at Phillip Island in a couple of weeks' time? So the margin at the end was 1.28 seconds between Todd Kelly and Jason Bright. They were both in the 27s at that point in the race. Craig Lowndes 29.4 on the last lap for 3rd. Mark Scaife, Rick Kelly, that's a tremendous comeback for him. Let's run through these unofficial placings for you. Then Stephen Johnson, James Courtney, Garth Tander. Again, that's a great get-out-of-jail job after fluffing the start. Cam McConville and Russell Ingall inside the top 10, and Russell's probably reasonably pleased with that because he was scratching his head early in the weekend trying to find a setup to work on that car.
I think the story of that race there were comebacks, the progress from low positions getting up into higher points paying positions. Several drivers who you've highlighted there, Neil. The VB scoreboard, we go back to the top 20 and back through the field. Definitely a better race than the second, that's for sure. Nothing in it at the end there between Todd Kelly and Jason Bright as they congratulate each other on a fine race. So as far as the weekend is concerned, Bright took the first, Tander the second, and Todd Kelly the third. 3 different winners from as many races. But the Cat Man, victorious in Bahrain.